Hi, I just want to start by welcoming everybody. This is the first part of a series of conversations that I'll be holding as part of my culminating project for my peace and conflict resolution practicum. So I'm very excited. The purpose of these series of conversations is to sort of like break barriers and build bridges between women leaders with intersectional identities on UH Mānoa campus.
Mm.
Um, well, first, I want to just ground us that I am conducting this interview in the Kingdom of Hawaii.
Yes.
We're on Oahu currently, and just want to honor and respect Kanaka Oiwi, who have graciously allowed us to use this space for learning and spreading compassion. So, um, with that, my name is Jazmin, and my guest here is LaJoya Reed Shelly. Would you care to give us a brief introduction, LaJoya, with anything that you feel comfortable with sharing?
Yes. So thank you again, Jasmine, for allowing me to participate in this great project. I think these conversations, I believe deeply in dialogue. And I think as a qualitative researcher and emerging scholarship, these type of conversations are the things that bring me the most joy. And it's part of my why for being in higher ed. But my name is LaJoya Reed Shelly. I use she, her pronouns. I identify as a Black American or American descendant of slaves. I am a PhD candidate in the Department of Educational Administration. I'm a mother scholar. I'm a scholar organizer. And I just feel really fortunate to be here, particularly as a Black woman in the Kingdom of Hawaii. All the ways that this place has nurtured me, has helped me to heal, and has helped me to find home within myself. So I'm deeply grateful to be here as a scholar and also as a settler of color in the kingdom. I'm really happy to be here. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. So I have a set of questions that I think folks that meet you, first of all, so many people know your name and know your face, but don't get the opportunity necessarily to talk story with you. So
Yeah.
I compiled some questions that I think some folks would want to know.
Mhm.
So how long have you been a student here at UH Manoa?
So I applied for the master's program in higher education administration, and I was accepted in fall of 2015. And I did that program until the spring of 2017. And my intention was only to do that. I really wanted to get my master's and leave. I thought I would do academic advising. I really didn't know at that time the the fullness of what really was within me. That I didn't even know that I had the ability to get a PhD. It wasn't on my mind. And so through some positive mentoring experiences and encouragement by several faculty and close mentors, I applied for the PhD program in the same department and I was accepted. And so I've been in that since fall of 2017 and will graduate in December of this year. So I've been on campus almost 10 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
That's amazing. I I'm curious, like, because when I've met you, it's been in like these organizational sort of
Mhm.
environments and leadership and academia, but I'm curious, like, if you could give like these like broad strokes of like the snapshots of LaJoya's, life. So like how did you kind of get
Yeah.
to this point?
Yes, so I'm military connected, both as my partner's in the military, my husband and my father was also. So I've grown up all over. As I mentioned, I am an American descendant of slavery, so I do have roots. My first freed ancestor relocated to Tate County in Mississippi, so it's a small County in Mississippi, and then I was born in Arkansas, northeastern Arkansas. My dad and my mother got married, and we moved, all over. So I've spent time in North Carolina, abroad, Oklahoma, and the like I guess the most common thread of all of that being military connected is that you're in these presumably colorblind environments. And so
Mm,
you're being shaped under like this um, assumption that we're all similar. And so we're all American and we're all,
mm,
a part of a part of the military, a part of the military community, and we're no different. And so what it does, it kind of invisibilizes your experiences, your cultural experiences. It also kind of results in this forced assimilation too. And so I would say my early years, I was really reared in that idea. And I had very specific spaces where I could express cultural identity. So I'm thinking about like church spaces, community spaces, family spaces. But I just remember feeling like I stood out so much because I was tokenized. As you mentioned, everybody
mm,
knows my name and my face.
mm,
This is something that was is familiar to me, but it's in a different way. And I'll kind of talk about like how it's changed. So at that time, it was everybody knows you, you're tokenized. And there was a lot of pressure to really live up to this like ideal standard of what it means to be a young Black woman and a Black student in a predominantly white space. And that's a lot of pressure. And so that meant there was a lot of code switching, a lot of things like shortening my name. Oh, you can just call me Joy or Joya, and just really trying not to stand out. And that continued on into my undergrad years. Similarly, I went to a predominantly white, historically white institution in the Midwest. It was a private institution. It was very white. It was very affluent. It was a very good school, but it was also a very isolating and alienating experience. And primarily because again, there's this assumption at institutions of higher ed and Tinto talks about this and other, and people and scholars of color have pushed back against these kind of earlier ideas of what it means to be successful in higher ed. But again, it's like this acculturation, this assimilation. And so I was doing what I had always done to survive and navigate educational environments. I wouldn't say that it felt comfortable, but we do things to survive the space. And so when I graduated, I was just happy to be done. I was not nearly as active as I became on this institution. And really when I came here, as I mentioned, I wanted to get my master's. I want to go home. I'm just gonna come here and get my education. And part of it was because I had never really felt, and as Black women and as other marginalized people of color, we exist kind of on the margins of higher ed, right? We're allowed in, but we're outsiders within, right? We're not really
mm,
quite welcomed fully into the space. And
mm,
that's reflected in a lot of things, the curriculum, the composition of the professoriate, all of these things, right? So we know that. Um, but when I got here, it was so different. And I was like, oh. And as I mentioned, I'm so grateful to be here in Hawaii because I started to like let go of those things, let go of feeling like I needed to assimilate to be successful. And that was at the direction and the instruction of Kanaka Oiwi Wahine. Like Native Hawaiian
mm,
women really showed me what it meant to be powerful and educated and to be proudly and boldly yourself.
mm,
And so there's this shifting in me, and I'm in my mid to late 20s at this point, and there's a shifting in me, and I'm noticing like, oh, this is a different way to be successful. And so BSA, the Black Student Association, Sister Circle, none of this existed. And I can't say that I came here with the intention to create it. I can honestly say that. I did not come here with those intentions, but life experiences and this, because I mentioned I'm a scholar organizer, getting involved in organizing spaces really was by happenstance, because it was like the African American specialist position and ethnic studies was getting ready to be eliminated. And someone said, will you sign this
Oh,
petition? And we need to do something about it. And I was like, well, I'm Black, I need to do something about it, right? I need to answer the call. I need to show up. And so with ESSA, other faculty members, other student organizers, we really started to do this work. We went to the state legislature, and it's really organic, which we know grassroots movements are. And so it's really organic, but as I reflect backwards, it's the making of me. I'm being made and shaped into the leader that I am just by doing things that are important to me and using my voice for things that are important to me. And again, I'm being educated in an environment where it's like my teachers are like, yeah, you should show up when something's not right. You should use your voice. You do have power. And so I'm receiving all of this empowerment and all of these positive messages about myself and the things that I care about. Like, yes, we need an African American specialist position. Yes, you and other Black students matter. And I'm not necessarily saying it was broadly institutionally, but in the places and spaces where I was interacting, those were the messages that I was receiving. So it gave me the strength to speak back to the institution and say, yeah, I'm here, and here, and Black students are here, Black voices are here, and we need it. And so from there, the Black Student Association started. And one of the questions you asked me, and I might be jumping ahead, you asked, how has the campus changed? And one of the ways that the campus changed was there was not a visible Black community and presence on campus at all. And so I'm here in 2014, 2015. At this time, Black Lives Matter movement is really burgeoning. We're having, what's it? I mean, uh, Sandra Bland and Mike Brown, and all of these things are happening. But Black students are like, we don't have a space to talk about it in class. And yes, we're far removed being in the kingdom, but some people were like, that's my neighborhood, or those neighborhoods resemble our neighborhood. So first we were like, we just want a space to talk. We just want a space to have community. It wasn't even like we had a name or anything. We just wanted to be as Black people and gather and say, I see it. It's hurtful. It's harmful. What can we do? And why does it matter in a place like Hawaii? And how can we talk about it? And then that's really, again, like this organic, but it's building and it's growing. And then we start to put things in place. Well, if we're going to have this organization, what are some of the things that we can do? And then you start to see like Black Grad and all those things. But anyway, I would say from adolescence to now, as a mother, someone who is in their later 30s, what has really, how I became who I am, because it definitely doesn't happen overnight. And I think that we sometimes attribute tropes of strength and superhumanness to Black women. Oh, you're so strong. And it's like, yeah, but I've also I had to learn how to be vulnerable, and being vulnerable and saying, I need community to persist. Whereas before I was like, okay, this is just what it is. There is institutional racism and sexism. I'm just going to navigate it, head down. I might talk about it outside of the institution. I might talk about it with family and friends, and I'm just going to deal. Is that strength? It might be. I think it's not, I think it's a wrong of us to say, oh, that's not the right way, because we all are trying to survive as we navigate these spaces, and we all engage in activism and show up in our own way. So that was my previous way. But something in me, like I said, changed as I began to do this work. And I recognized, well, no, it's not okay. And no, I do need more. And yes, it's okay for me to hold my institution accountable for serving me. And it's okay for me to desire representation. And so because it wasn't there, I had to build it. And it's a way for me to, one, lift as I climb, which is something that, um, you know, Black women have been doing since forever. We can trace that all the way back to Harriet Tubman when because she could have got away and been like, okay, I'll see y'all later. After she got her family, she could have said, I'll see y'all later, and she didn't do that. And so we see, and then early educated Black women who created these institutions and served and used their education in so many empowering ways for community. So this is a Black feminist tradition that I'm engaging in to say, not only do I need it, but I need to make sure I create it so that the people who come after me have something to participate in and to look towards. And I've given them a blueprint for how to survive and navigate this institution and really any space as a Black person, as a Black woman. And so that is kind of the things that is something that if I had to describe like how am I me or what made me be me, I think, you know, those lessons and also being a mother. I am actively invested in dismantling systems and structures, particularly in higher ed, that would marginalize my child because I want her to know that she belongs. And so she's got to walk into college. She's got to see other Black women. She's got to see other women of color. She needs to see Indigenous women. And so the only way that's going to happen is if I am doing this work alongside thousands of other women, both within and outside the academy, to make that happen. And so I think that's how the becoming, and I'm not done. This is where I'm at today, but I think as I move forward, these are the things that I'm grounded in. Hope that answered it.
No, yeah, that was perfect. That was extra credit for you. I often think about when Viola Davis gave her Oscar speech, and she said, "We can't win awards for roles that don't exist." And I just think that I feel very privileged to be able to speak to you, and that's not something that I just say to just anybody, because you really like created a platform and safe community through the Black Student Association and Sister Circle and Black Grad, because like now we can give the awards because the roles exist now, because
Yeah.
you and like many others are like paving the way. Shout out to Naya McAdoo. You
Yes.
guys are always just like being so kind and gracious. And I think it's really cool to hear your whole story. Um, and that like, I also want to add that like, we often put on our like our low income folks and our Black and brown folks and kids like to be resilient all the time, but like
Mhm.
that gets hard after a while.
Dude.
I'm kind of tired of being resilient. Like,
Mm.
why is that being expected of me, but everybody
Oh,
else gets to just like do a cakewalk? I don't know. Seems
right,
odd. Seems odd.
right. And it's just like, well, you can prove how well you can fit into this space by shrinking yourself and hiding the things about yourself and not even doing your hair a certain way and not maybe wearing professional wear the way you would culturally wear professional wear, or just showing up in your fullness and your authenticity.
Mhm.
Um, and that's seen as resilient. That's seen as, you know, doing what you have to do to make it. And it's not healthy. And I recognize that. And I am sometimes sad that it took me so long to see
Mhm.
that. But I'm also like, well, there's a lesson in that too. And so now, again, as a mother, Grace is just surrounded by so much iconography and imagery that is like black specific, from her dolls to her books to the shows that we watch to the, and I showed up at her school for Black History Month and I read to her class. because I never want her to feel like she's at the periphery. I'm always trying to make sure she knows like her story is important and it matters. Because I hope that I'm teaching her that she doesn't have to be anyone but herself in order to be successful. And I hope that I am building her up enough that when people try to put resilience and whatever and all that on her, she'll be strong, but it'll be strong in her own terms. And I just think we've weaponized strength in such a way that it does harm. And it's like, okay, I'm strong, but what are these systems and structures doing to me? Right. And I look at that at my work too, because like, oh, Black women are the most educated demographic. Yay, we love that for us. But it's also like, well, what are we experiencing in these places? Like, did we survive or did we thrive? Are we visible? Do our professors look like us? Does the syllabus reflect our lived experiences? What are the microaggressions we're receiving from faculty and peers and on and on? And when we begin to dig deeper, we realize that, okay, we have work to do. So you're 100% correct. Strength is a misnomer. And I am, again, maybe this is because I'm in this closing, almost closing out this decade. I am actively trying to take off my cape little by little. And I think doing this work helps me do that because I'm like, we're telling the truth. We're speaking truth to power. These things are harming us in exponential ways. I want to lift up Dr. Antonia Bailey, Canada Bailey. She committed suicide at Lincoln University after several months of workplace bullying. She's a Black woman. And they just found no evidence of bullying by her employer. And so the person will remain president and in power. And I imagine a lot of people thought that she was strong too. And so this is what we have to lose. This is what we risk when we assume that the only way to survive and navigate these spaces is to be strong. I'll stop there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, LaJoya. I want to kind of turn and see like what inspired you to go into the educational administration program.
I'm an accidental educator. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I graduated with my
Oh,
undergrad.
wow.
I graduated with my undergrad at the height of the economic crisis in 2007, 2008. I graduated, excuse me, high school at that time. And then so I graduated undergrad 2011, but of course we were still feeling the reeling from that, and we still are today. But I was feeling unsure about the prospect of being unemployed or underemployed and saddled with debt, which here we are again, dealing with that right now. And students are currently navigating that. Folks are currently navigating that as evidenced by the student debt crisis. And so I thought, I'll take a break. I'll see what the economy is going to do. So hopeful. And I will just work. And all my jobs have only been at an institution of higher ed. I've never worked anywhere else from a student worker until now. I've only worked on campus. So I started to work for the dean of the college, former dean of the College of Education. And I was a program coordinator for a graduate program there. And I just really had to support students and help them navigate the program, help them with financial aid, that type of stuff. It was like administrative. And I was like, oh, I like this. I like working with students. I like working with people. I love higher ed. I should just stay. And I remember talking to my former employer and saying, I I'm tired of being talked to like I'm not smart enough to be in the room just because I'm an admin person. I have ideas and things that I can contribute. And they instructed me, they said, well, you need your master's. To make it in this field, you need your master's. So, you're gonna get the credential and people will listen to you. And that's loaded, but that's a different conversation. And I was like, okay. So I got right, if you know, I got my I said I'm gonna get my master's. And then I had a brief intermission because I got married and again, I'm military connected. And so I came here and I came to the program and honestly, again, when I came in, I thought this is just going to help me get a job. This is job security. Because again, we're coming out, I'm being reared in this time of like, or coming of age in this time of where people just cannot get jobs and people are apprehensive because we've got these degrees that they said were going to give us access to this American dream. And so I thought, well, this will secure my employment if I get a master's. And I just really it was like a means to an end. And I'm really grateful that this process has transformed me. And one, helped me to believe that one, I am an educator and I can contribute positively through scholarship, through programming. Like it's just all the things that I do as a leader on campus. It's like if you had to say who is LaJoya in a nutshell, and that's really what it is. It's like the academic piece, the programming piece, the people piece, the community piece. It's all in one. And so, again, I'm discovering with you in this conversation that nothing, it's not by accident. I don't want to say it's an accident, but I can see like how these certain turns have just kept keep pushing me to my purpose. And I'm really grateful for that. So thank you. This is helping me reflect like on how I got here too. This is good for me to sit and be in gratitude about how my life is unfolding.
Love that. You're getting closer to the room where it happens.
Yeah.
And make these changes for future generations.
That's right.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure we brought in Sister Circle and what is that? And what kind of things do you guys do? I'm also in Sister Circle, but for people that don't know.
Well, first of all, I love that you're in Sister Circle and I love the Sister Circle. And so as I mentioned earlier, we started BSA really after the position in ethnic studies was going to be eliminated. It was secured. We started having regular meetings. We started having campus-wide events. We created Black Grad, which is named after Alice Ball. And I've moved up. I've been everything. I've been a general member to the president, and I'm now the graduate advisor of the Black Student Association. It's a space that I truly, truly love, but I'm a leader in that space. And so I'm not always looking to be vulnerable. I'm looking to be a support to students, which is fine. And I'm really happy about that. But I have been the only Black woman in my department from 2015 until 2022. That's when Naya came, and Naya is my co-founder. And I remember our office administrator at the time saying, there's a Black woman coming to the department. I want you to meet her. So you know what we do. I picked up the phone. I'm on Instagram. I'm finding her. And I sent her this message and I said, sis, if you come to Hawaii, I got you. Whatever you need. You need to figure out where to get your hair done. I got you. You need a book. And I just really was kind of like coming at it as like, I'm my sister's keeper. This Black woman is going to come to this campus and she's never going to be alone if she allows me to be in her life because I've got her, And so it was like really organic. Like also as an advanced PhD student, as an elder, and I use that in quotes, but as an elder, because Naya calls me her auntie, I was like, it's my job. It was never a question, am I gonna be there for Naya? It was like, you have no other choice. It's also who I'm always, and like you said, people know me. I cannot tell you how many Black people come up to me and say, someone said I should meet you. Someone said I should meet you. And I'm just like, yes, what do you need? If I don't know, let me put you on, let me connect you, let me whatever. And so I was like, there's no way a Black woman is coming in my department and I'm not going to do it for her. Like, absolutely not.
Oh,
And so we just started, we connected, we started talking, we stayed in touch, blah, blah, blah. She gets here. And again, doing what I do, I know a guy who knows a guy, and I'm, start helping her to get connected, which Naya really doesn't need help because she's just fantastic and fabulous. But again, using my little sphere of influence to make sure I'm connecting her and supporting her. And then we said, oh, let's write a seed grant for this Black woman series we wanted to do. And then we start writing, and literally as I'm writing the narrative, I was like, PSA needs a sister circle because we need a space to talk about our intersectional experiences as Black women. And selfishly, I'm like, and I need a space to be vulnerable because I'm a leader right here. And I need a space where I can be both and, because in the sister circle, it's a student-led organization and it's a space to support the psychosocial and academic success of Black, Indigenous, and other women of color on campus. We primarily did have graduate students in the space, but we also have undergrads too. So it's a space for everyone. But the primary focus is, again, supporting and recognizing that we have our intersectional identities necessitate different spaces, different responses, because we're dealing with, double oppression, some triple oppression, depending on where our identities are. We're Black and queer and a woman, like all of these
mhm,
things. So we needed a
mhm,
space to have these conversations. So I'm like, okay, but really the basis of Sister Circle is really the foundation of Naya and I's friendship. Our friendship is the foundation.
mhm,
Again, this deep love for Black women, this deep responsibility I felt to support her and to be her sister, to be there for her. And then it's like, oh, well, we should do this for everybody else. And that's really what expanded it out. And so Naya is a fantastic partner, and she is just incredible. And I tell people all the time, I really do work for Naya, because she is, so much of the heart and soul. But it's like I work for her because I felt a deep responsibility to her to make sure that she wasn't navigating the institution alone. And I think that's how I feel towards all of my sisters, who are in the group. And Black women, we participate, our mentoring looks different. We create these mentoring and co-mentoring networks that are like fictive kin. That's why we say sis, right? Because it's like, you're my family. And so it's not like a typical peer mentoring where there's an upperclassman and so there's this transfer of knowledge, and it's usually unidirectional. And this space, it's bidirectional. I'm learning from y'all and you're learning from me. There's all of this ike that is being transferred, or knowledge that's being transferred amongst all of us. There's no hierarchy. No one's saying, well, LaJoya is the PhD student in the room, so no one else can talk. No. And so again, part of it is this resilience because we've had to scaffold out and build these networks. We don't have a lot of Black women faculty. So if I'm waiting around to support, or other Black women are waiting around for this support, it might not come in that way. But what can we do? Okay, I have institutional knowledge about this. I'm an advanced PhD student, so I can talk to you about this. Okay, this is my degree path, and I know this, or I had this issue at financial aid or whatever. And so we're all transferring this information to help each other navigate the institution. And so it really does like reject this idea of like individualism as well as competition. And the sister circle is not that. It's about
mhm,
collaboration, it's about community, it's about dialogue. And again, it's about honoring this ancestral knowledge, honoring like this is how Black women have always done it. This is
mhm,
how women of color and Indigenous women have always done it. But again, the pieces that we lose of ourselves when we get into these institutions to be in competition, we reject that. And that's how we, one, transform ourselves, but we transform the academy, hopefully, prayerfully, by showing different models of what it means to support and be supported in at institutions of higher education. I'm excited. I just love it so much. It means so much to me.
Yes, I'm so grateful to be able to share space with you guys in Sister Circle and be able to like find that balance between like school life, but also like joy
Yes.
and peace.
Yes.
Um, I want to touch on like how some people feel like affinity groups are like so exclusionary and like, oh, what, why can't we, blah blah blah. I really want to touch on that because I don't consider that to be like a siloed experience, because
Yes.
even if it's like, even if this group is like black only or black women only or indigenous women only or women of color only, like
Mhm.
silos are not just about containing like information, like keeping to
Mhm.
yourself. It's also about containing like emotions and feelings. But those things aren't for everybody to implore and
Complete.
explore and analyze, just for anybody. Like we all have unique struggles, and
Mhm.
what affinity groups like the Sister Circle does is it like it allows for that vulnerability that you're talking about. It allows for like these feelings to come out and this knowledge to come out and be shared with people that need to hear it the most.
Oh, I
um
love that.
because we so often don't have time or space, or the
Mm-mm.
communities aren't given the time or the space, so they need to create that for themselves.
And it's
So
not always safe. It's not always safe for me to say, as a Black woman navigating this institution I'm experiencing. And we have assumptions, even about this campus, but we're also diverse. So we don't have that. One's like, "Mm, yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We got it.
mhm,
We got it going on.
mhm,
Let's look at the numbers. What does the data not tell us about what Black women are experiencing or Black students are experiencing? What does the data reveal? Well, now we got to get together because we got to understand the deeper story. What does our diversity really tell us? And what is it diversity for whom? Is it numerical diversity? And how are we talking about it? And so I think you're completely right. And we always say that for one, the Black Student Association, we say it is not a space exclusive to Black people, but it's a space that centers the Black people. And that's
mhm,
very important. Like
mhm,
you can come in the space, but Black folks are being centered. You
mhm,
can come into Sister Circle, but one, sister circles were traditionally created for Black women. And so Black women experiences are centered. Place informs
mhm,
how we have shaped sister circle here, right? As you said earlier, being grateful guests to the Native Hawaiians who host us, nurture us, and love us, to the Aina, which nurtures us, feeds us, um, heals us, all of that. So we expanded it to make sure that we include indigenous and other women of color. And just numerically, there are not enough, we're like 1.8% of the population. There might be 50 Black graduate students on this campus. If I'm just waiting to only communicate and be in community with the 50 other Black graduate students on this campus, I have a very narrow and a very small, limited community for many reasons. We ain't all on the same schedule. We have not all, Blackness is not a monolith. We may
mhm,
not all desire community in that same way. That's not a negative, but we might not navigate the space the same way. We might not desire or require community in that way. And so Place has expanded our definition of this sister circle to include indigenous and other uh, women of color, be out of necessity, but also again, this idea that you can create spaces that center Black folks or Black experiences that aren't exclusionary. You don't have to be exclusive to other people, but there are times where you might need it. I remember
mhm,
one time we were at a BSA meeting and a Black girl came in and she was an undergrad. She said, "Y'all, I came to the meeting today because I just wanted to see another Black person." She was
mhm,
Black and in STEM. And she
mhm,
was like, "I rarely see Black people." And I just needed to come to this space because I wanted to see other Black people. She not being exclusionary, but she wanted to know I'm not alone. I belong here. Let me see some other people who look like me so I can know that there are other Black people who are navigating this space just as I am, and I'm fine. And that's the difference. And so I think you're 100% correct. And I think, like, why can't I? I think people need to unpack their privilege and think about, like, well, what about being in spaces? Do I ever feel like I don't belong? Do I ever feel like I need a space to heal? Do I ever feel like I need a space to process microaggressive comments? Do I make microaggressive comments that make other people run to other spaces? And I think when we sit and sit, when we sit with that and we unpack that, but I'm learning that we all have to come into our journeys. 18-year-old me would not have been in a sister circle. Because again, I was just head down, let me get through. 18-year-old with me would not have. I didn't even have the vocabulary for it. I wasn't at the space to receive it or to be a good sister in a space. I wasn't a negative person, but I was just so head down, let me get through. Almost ignoring the things that were around me. So again, like, we have to grow in grace and, like, also look within ourselves and say, well, if a space like this feels uncomfortable for me, what's the resistance? What are the things that I've been told about other women that might make me think I don't want to participate? What, how, am I holding on to this internalized patriarchal mindset? Am I centering the opposite sex? Just because, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just other things that you gotta do some internal work. And I don't think those things make you inherently bad or whatever, but I do think that, like, the resistance to these, like, liberatory movements, we gotta think about, like, why is this making me uncomfortable? So, yeah, 18-year-old me would not have even had the vision to create it because I didn't know I needed it. Fun fact about me.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm kind of surprised, but like you said, like these things call to us. We are
Yes.
called to them, in our own time. Yeah, on our own journey. So thank you for sharing that. I have a few more questions here.
Okay, I know we gotta go around.
What is the thing you're most proud of creating during your time at UH Mānoa?
Well, I just not a 1 and 2. It's like BSA Sister Circle 1A, 1 and 1A. I'm super excited for that. I created those spaces. And Black Graduation, which honors Alice Ball, our most distinguished Black alumni. I am really just so incredibly proud of that. And I look forward to coming back for the 20th year celebration of Black Grad. I am really, really excited for the ways that the students will continue to carry it forward.
Love that. Would you be able to, like, briefly kind of share Alice Ball's
Yeah, so Alice
history?
Ball was the first Black woman to graduate from the University of Hawaii at Mānoa, which at the time was just the College of Hawaii, in 1915. She was also the first woman, an African-American woman, to teach in the Department of Chemistry. She obtained her master's from the institution. And Alice's work and research using the oil from the chamugra tree and the treatment of Hansen's disease was deeply impactful and important to the Kingdom of Hawaii, as well as to Hansen's patients overall. Unfortunately, she died at the young age of 23 or 24, and so her work was lost to us for several decades. Her work was also falsely claimed by her advisor at the time, Arthur Dean, who would later become the president, but he changed the Ball method from the Dean to the Dean method. And so again, this work was lost for quite some time. But researchers here at UH in the library, Dr. Paul Warmarger, Dr. Catherine Takara, who was one of the only Black women professors at UH for over 30 years, for quite some time. And there were others, but she was a very prominent and very visible Black woman on campus. Dominique London, who was a Black woman who was an exchange student who came to UH, and others have really done a lot to uplift Alice's legacy. And so she was posthumously awarded a Medal of Regents from the institution in 2007. And there is a picture and her medal and a plaque and a niche and a nook in Hamilton Library. But we use the Black graduation really to point to this legacy of educational excellence that was attributed and exhibited by a Black woman, Alice Ball.
Yes, give her flowers, please. And sign the petition to change Dean
Yep.
Hall to
Yes,
Ball Hall.
yes. Sign the
Ah,
petition, please, to
yeah.
change Dean Hall to Ball Hall, because it is deeply important for her to receive that credit. And then there's power in the name. There's a Black woman's name on that building. What does that mean to other Black women? What does that mean to Black women in STEM and other Indigenous women of color in STEM? It matters deeply. That representation and how we name and how we share history about what's happened on campus, it matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I have this question, and I can also chip into this. How can non-Black students and community members support our fellow students or community members that are Black? Are there people, places, or events that, on island or even on the continent that can help people to tune in and like educate themselves and support?
Yes, I love this question. The first thing is that Black people cannot dismantle the systems and structures that historically and presently marginalize us alone. So it's a collective effort. I do think people should be slow to speak and quick to listen and to learn, listen to the voices of Black people, Black women, Black queer people, Black trans folks, because these voices are often marginalized, silenced, pushed out, not only in the academy, but I mean, look broadly at your Fortune 500 companies and then your C-suite. And not that that's the ideal place to be, because that doesn't necessarily look like liberation for all of us. But when we're thinking about these people who can move the needle in specific places, politically, in the corporate space, in the education space, the leadership does not often reflect the people who are at the bottom. And so we have a particular way of seeing because of our positionality and our identity. And so if that's not reflected in leadership spaces, in the classroom, etc., then there's a lot of information that's being lost. And so I think that's the first thing. Look around. Who's in the room? Okay. And you need to bring people into the room, but you also need to bring people into a room that is healthy and safe. So if you bring me in there and I'm going to get talked over and dismissed and, and you want me to be over your diversity committee and I have no money, no backing, no support, then you could have kept that, because I'm in a no-win situation. And we see it all the time. There's a woman at Johns Hopkins who gave a definition, I think, of the word privilege. And the people got mad. That was her job. She was over DEI. They got mad and she had to resign. No, y'all brought her in for this job. I'm sorry, that's just me being relaxed. I know that should be more. But this is, I mean, for real, let's think about that. So I think, like, if you bring me in the room, will I be safe in the room? And can you create the conditions to help that if you have power? If you're a person with power, and power can be defined in many ways. I think if you're a student, you should be seeking out spaces to be in community with people who don't look like you. So, like, where are spaces and places that you could participate on campus? Like maybe there's a screening, or maybe you heard about the Alice Ball Hall petition and you put your name on it. Or maybe you see that the Indigenous Student Association is having an event and you want to go and learn. You know, those type of things. And reading is so, that's easy. It's free. You can go to your library and you can read, and there are all type of book, you know, books on Black feminism, books on Black liberation, books on Black experiences in higher ed, books on, you know, there's so many, and it's just a quick Google. And pay attention to the positionality of the people that you're reading. Are you reading about Black experiences from a white male educator? Now, he might know. It's not his lived experience. He might have the data. He may have all of that. But like maybe think, well, maybe what's a Black woman educator got to say about this? Or a Black male? What is, you know, what is their orientation? What is this framed in? What is this rooted in? Is this about liberation, or is this like a deficit framing? Because if it's a deficit framing, then it's probably some, you know, probably some more work we need to do there and think about it. But if we're thinking about like the strengths that already exist within Black people and highlighting that versus just all of these deficits, that might be something that you want to read. I think that's important, like the orientation of like what you consume. What is it rooted in? What is it grounded in? I think that matters. And I think, you know, not playing oppression Olympics, because it's easy. And we should not take, when people talk about their experience personally, I am talking about historically, structurally issues. We alone do not uphold these systems and structures. But when we participate in holding fast to them, then we're strengthening them. We're giving them roots. We're making sure they stay. When we don't say, hey, we've been doing this and there are no Black people at the table, maybe we should stop, then you are upholding it. Yes, you are. But you didn't create these conditions, but you and each of us have a responsibility to help dismantle the conditions such that we all become free. Because I think there's this idea like, if I give you access, then I'm going to lose. But really, you're not. You're not going to lose. If I'm free, then we're all free. But we don't think about our liberation as a collective. We think like, okay, this means, and that was really the basis of that affirmative action. So now we got to dismantle affirmative action because you think I got 2 steps ahead of you. And look at all these roadblocks. This is where that started. Now everybody's going to be sitting around because the main benefactors of affirmative action, and we know who they are, they're going to stop getting in the door. Then everybody's going to be clutching their pearls. But remember when you thought I was getting something, that I was taking something from you? You took something from yourself. And so we really got to think about that when we think about being in spaces. And as a non-Indigenous person, when I first came here, I was like, oh, I just love being Black in Hawaii. I'm so relaxed. It's so different. And da 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 da. And my kumu asked me, if you feel this way, who doesn't feel this way and why? And girl, I read from A Native Daughter by Hononi K. Trask. I had to humble myself. I had to listen. I had to learn. So it's not like, you know, Black people don't have to do this work too. We have to do this work too. That's what it means for us all to show up for each other. So when they sent the call out and they wanted our institutions to divest from TMT, we need people to stand with us on the stairs of Hawaii Hall. I went. Because my community was asking me to come, a community I had been invited into, embraced by, loved by. I had to show up. And so I think those are things like when you're really in community with people and you get to know their stories and you understand what's going on, you're humble, and then you ask, what can I do? Not in a savior mindset, but really, how can I help you do what y'all have already been doing to participate in this liberation? And again, recognizing that Jazmin being free is not taking anything from my freedom. Really is only enriching it. So that's what I would say to our allies and our collaborators. Um, uh, it's a we, it's a collaboration is a collective project, a collective process. And I think the burnout and the resilience that people keep putting on us is because, well, y'all do it. Now, how am I free myself and I ain't create the conditions that make me unfree? Right? So
Yeah, make it make sense. Make it make sense.
it's not adding up. The math is not mathing.
No, no. I think you pretty much, yeah, answered that very well. I will say, coming as like a non-Black person,
Yes,
identifying
ma'am.
person, and from the outside, but also this goes for other communities as well, as you mentioned. Um, you don't always need to ask, a Black person like, oh, all your questions, or like you just don't need to do that. And then you mentioned earlier, like the Black community is not a monolith, just like all communities are not monoliths. So like your one or two Black friends don't speak for the whole Black community, and so just, yeah, before you go asking people questions, like, you can do your own work. Like LaJoya said, like reading books is huge because you can get like a whole wealth of knowledge from that. And you could read Ibram X. Kendi, you can read Angela Davis, Maya Angelou,
Mhm,
Langston Hughes.
mhm,
I mean, like there's just like Audre Lorde, like there's just so many people, Claudia Rankine,
mhm,
and this, if you want the historical perspective, you can get that. If you want contemporary stuff, even like Afro futures and like alternative futures, those are all
mhm,
things. There's like
mhm,
this wealth of knowledge to be explored, and
mhm,
it's one thing to not be exposed, so if you're not
mhm.
exposed to different
Yeah,
people, you're gonna have ideas that the media gave you, or
yeah,
stuff that you heard from your family,
yeah.
you know can't be helped. But as you get older, you suddenly are able to make your own decisions
Have a
about
choice.
what you're choosing
Mhm.
to explore and discover for yourself about the world and all of these beautiful people that we have in the world.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I definitely wanted to add that. And then my final question for you, LaJoya, and I think this is probably the most important one, especially as like women leaders
Yes.
um, in general. What How are you able to make time and space for your own joy, your own peace, and what does that look like for you?
So as I said, I'm a mommy. So that is like a big part of my joy. And 4 years ago, because my daughter is 4, I was so I'm doing, and I was not very good at self-care or joy. But there is something about, I mean, or joy, like I would just do it like, it's my birthday, it's small things, but I was not daily joy, weekly joy, no, because you're working and you're grinding. It's like really grind culture that exists. And like, what does it mean to be a rigorous scholar? It means to have your bottom in the chair 8 hours a day, and you're reading and you're writing and you're doing all the things, which I think has its place. But having a daughter disrupted all of that. I also was rearing my child in the early stages during the pandemic, which really flipped things upside down. And
Mhm.
so um joy is slowing down. Joy is being okay that my timeline is not what I thought it would be. Joy is seeing my daughter after a long day, and being with her and being outside and all of that. So joy is, I don't let my motherhood compete with who I am as a scholar and vice versa. It's just who I am. I'm a mother scholar, so that's centered. And if that means that Grace is on campus with me some days, then Grace is on campus with me some days, and that's okay. But she brings me joy, and watching her love herself as a Black girl is so joyful. It is just so, it's healing, Jazmin. It's so healing because she knows who she is and she loves herself deeply as she is. And that is just, if I don't do anything else in this life, I know I've done that and I've done enough. That really brings me joy. Another thing is therapy. Therapy. Leaders need therapy. People need therapy. We need access to therapy. And we need to know that it is okay to be vulnerable. And so the reason why I can say that throughout this conversation is because I am in a therapy journey, on a therapy journey. And I don't think people like to talk about that, but we should. And so that is how I am slowing down more and making time for peace and joy by doing inner work to sustain all the things that I am and who I want to be. But I know I have to be whole to do that. And it doesn't matter if I'm all these things externally, if I'm unwell internally. So I'm doing that. I try to have gratitude. Like I said, as I'm talking to you, I'm like, wow, all of these things that have happened in my life that are positive, and how my life has been divinely guided to all of this wonder and these good things is gratitude. And so thinking about my life in that way. And do I have challenges? Yes, I really do. But also trying to stay in a space of gratitude and a space of wonder. So those are the things that bring me joy and keep me grounded, for sure. And community. I love the communities I have built. And when I see my sisters on campus, it's like so happy. Cause I also know, like, not only is she my homegirl, but like we're in the sister circle together and we created this space and it's ours and it's, and so it's just so important to me. And community is so valuable. And I don't think we recognize just how powerful it is to be a part of these loving communities and that we build. So yeah, those are the things that do all the things that you just asked me to explain.
Lovely. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of my conversation series.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's been a long journey. And then I hope that we get to meet again very soon. I know you guys are holding all types of events, so
Yeah.
Oh, are there any events coming up soon that we should know about?
Yes, tomorrow we're launching the Phyllis Wheatley Free Black Women's Library. I forgot to talk about that. That's a part of Sister Circle. So we have our pillars. One of them is academics, and academics encompasses the Phyllis Wheatley Free Black Women's Library. And so this is not something that is unique to our campus. There are other free Black women's libraries across the country, originated out of New York. But the purpose of the Free Black Women's Library is to highlight the scholarly works of Black women. And so right now we're being hosted in Native Hawaiian Student Services. So you can go by, you can check out a book, you can just sit in the space and read a book. If you sign in and follow, Native Hawaiian Student Services protocols, please do that. But they have graciously hosted us in their space. And so tomorrow we will be launching our free Black Women's Wednesday, we will be launching our free Black Women's Library March 27th from 11 to 1. But please follow us on Instagram for future events, future readings. We are Sister Circle Mānoa. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna pull out my phone.
All good, all good.
This is like so Sister Circle, yes. I wanted to make sure it wasn't the Sister Circle Mānoa, all one word. So you can find us on Instagram, and you can sign up for our link tree and get on our mailing list. For the Black Student Association, Black graduation is coming up. The Alice Ball Black graduation is coming up, and you can find that online at Mānoa Black Grad on Instagram, and follow for all event details there. So that's happening in May. But again, if you want to just be in community with us, that's the best way to keep up with us and participate. So I'm super excited, and thank you, Jazmin, for allowing me to be here and to share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.